new haircut and he's dressing fresher. And I was like, we're looking for answers. Find answers.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
Mike Greenberg's always good for a soundbite. There he is ranting about how this is a catastrophe for the Bears, passionately, as if he's a Bears fan. Beats Kyle Brandt's rants. I have nothing against Kyle Brandt. He just really pissed me off when Packers fans were ready to move on from Aaron Rodgers a couple of years ago, and he did that condescending as hell video where he sat down. It's like, Packers fans, sit with me for a moment. Let me tell you about how life elsewhere in the NFL works before you're so excited to move on from Aaron Rodgers. Okay, let me tell you. It's like, would you... First of all, how'd that work out for Packers fans? Maybe we knew. Even if Rodgers doesn't end up getting hurt, the Packers were ready to go. It wasn't happening, so it's time to move on. But ever since Kyle Brandt did that thing where he's like, Packers fans, listen to me for a sec. I kind of tune his monologues out. It's nothing personal. Just left a bad taste in my mouth. Greeny's always good for a nice rant, though. You also heard Danny Parkins in that intro, Fox Sports 1. Used to be at 670 The Score. It's been really interesting to listen to Bears people kind of go through it over the last week and a half. Or people who aren't even Bears fans, but people who had a lot of stock in the Bears coming into this year. People who were banging the drum really loudly for, this is the best situation ever for a number one overall pick. And I heard those takes. I'm like, yeah, maybe. It's not exactly a long list, though, of amazing situations. It's not like he's joining the best team to ever play the greatest show on turf, but the team doesn't suck. The roster doesn't suck, which is more than you can say about a lot of quarterbacks that are brought onto rosters after being taken number one overall. And then I saw, earlier this year, Nick Wright's like, the Bears are going to make the Super Bowl. It's like, okay, if everything falls into place, I guess weirder things have happened. They got some nice players, right? I've been kind of right down the middle on the Bears. I said before the year, I think they'll have games where they look awesome, and they'll have games where they look absolutely terrible. I think they'll have 2 or 3 great games, 2 or 3 awful games, and it's about the rest of the schedule. What do they look like when they're not awful, but they're not amazing? What about the rest of the games where they're just fine? Where's their baseline? Well, I think their baseline's been pretty bad, and that's why their season isn't going as great as some maybe thought it would. But I don't know. We got to calm down as sports talkers a little bit. We can't be like, Caleb Williams is the greatest ever. Bears are going to the Super Bowl. And now we've swung all the way around, and it's like the Bears have completely botched it. Well, he's still a rookie. And it's still a roster that, wasn't exactly incredible. They weren't exactly winning 15 games last year. I don't know. The reaction to what's gone on with the Bears this week it's been entertaining as a Wisconsin sports guy, if nothing else. This is the Wisco Sports Show. Let's get to the point. Let's get into the show. My name is Grant Bills. You can watch the show on Facebook and YouTube, always the live stream. I'm on Twitter at Wisco Grant. I made a Blue Sky account because I guess, fine, I will. I don't know if I'm going to post a ton there, but I went over there and the first person I saw was Bukowski. I'm like, oh, God, it's over here too. Okay, so I guess you can follow me on Blue Sky at Wisco Grant. Mike Clemens going to be here in about an hour and 20 minutes. At 5 o'clock, I want to talk Badgers basketball. Gard spoke to the media today. I have a comment I want to play for you, and we can turn it into a larger kind of big picture discussion about the state of Badgers athletics, specifically how basketball, I believe to be right now, relating to football. I think there's a stark difference. So if you want to talk Badgers athletics, 5 o'clock, 608-321-1670, make sure, listen and call in then. We'll have plenty of time to go back and forth about it. I want to start today where we started yesterday because Monday Night Football did absolutely nothing for me last night. For whatever reason, I watched the first 2 quarters. I'm like, this kind of sucks. And it's fine. I mean, I'm not saying that, how did they put this matchup on Monday Night Football? What's the problem with the NFL today? For whatever reason, wasn't in the mood last night. It wasn't hitting. So I don't really have anything to say about Monday Night Football last night. I want to start tonight where we started yesterday. I don't want to expand on some of the conversations that we started having last night, and then we didn't get to continue because somebody wanted to talk about shipwrecks. I just feel so lucky to be someone who follows the Packers and cheers for the Packers and talks about the Packers as a part of my job, and to be a Packers shareholder myself. Because with the Packers on bye this weekend, I had to watch so many of these franchises. Like, I don't think these franchises have a clue. I watched the Jets on Sunday. I doubt a lot of people did because I think I can't remember if it was a 3:00 game or a noon game. I think it was a 3:00 game. It was a 3:00 game. I'm pretty sure it was buried on, I can't even remember if it was CBS or Fox. I watched it on Stream East. The Jets mortgaged their entire future on a 40-year-old quarterback coming off an Achilles injury. And I'm not even saying that I 100% blame them for that, because that's how pathetic of a franchise they've been for that long. Where it's like, well, he's 40 years old. He's coming off the Achilles and he had to bring in all of his friends, but I guess the Jets kind of have to do it, right? I still kind of think the Jets had to do this because that's how bad they've been for this long. Woody Johnson said, this is the most excited I've ever been about a team. It's like, Jesus. It doesn't exactly speak highly of teams that you've presided over, right? Different iterations of the team specifically that he's owned. That he owns the Jets, the team, but the different teams over the years. This is the most. Their points per game and yards per game are identical to what they were with Zach Wilson through this point in the season last year. That is appalling. That is appalling because all offseason, when people were trying to hype up the Jets to say, okay, this is the reason why the Jets could be a contender, which I never bought into because I watched Aaron Rodgers at the end with the Packers. I'm like, it's not, no. You're telling me he's going to go to the Jets and make a Super Bowl? He can't make a Super Bowl in stable Green Bay. They lost 4 NFC championship games in 7 years. There's no way in heck he's going to a dysfunctional organization. Are you kidding me? No. But I thought they could be 9-8, maybe, 10-7 if some things broke well. I never thought they could be a contender, but the people who thought that they could contend would say, well, look at the team last year. Look at how great they were on defense and Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall, and they had awful quarterback play. If you just replace that awful quarterback play with Aaron Rodgers, everything will get better. Well, no, because they've replaced that awful quarterback play with Aaron Rodgers, and they're the same. They're the exact same. Points per game, yards per game, it's the same. Just a sad sack of a franchise. Glad I'm a Packers fan. The Cowboys, who I watched at 3:00, just get embarrassed by the Eagles at home. And I've defended the Cowboys for the last 3 years. Like, hey, everybody, I know we poke fun at the Cowboys because they beat us up in the 90s and we're still holding a grudge against that. And Stephen A. Smith created an awesome bit laughing at them on national TV. I get it. They're the Cowboys. Ha, 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 ha. But, like, they actually win a lot of games, and Dak Prescott's pretty good. He's not Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers or Patrick Mahomes, but he's pretty good. He's not, the disaster that many of you mock him to be. They win 12 games every year. They're a pretty good team. They're not the best of the best, but they deserve a certain level of respect. I've been the person who's defended the Cowboys, which is insane given I live in Wisconsin and I'm a Packers fan. But this year, they're no longer a football team. That's a circus. For years, and when I say years, I mean like a decade plus now, even longer than that, possibly. But I have crystal memories, even going back to my childhood. It's like, the Cowboys will never win with Jerry Jones. Too noisy, too much drama. He lords over coaches, holds on to coaches too long, which is, by the way, it's bizarre. Like, at least Steinbrenner made sense. Like, Steinbrenner would meddle and he would lord over coaches, but he'd be quick to fire him if he didn't think they were doing a good job. Jerry presides over everything, lords over coaches, but then also doesn't fire the coach when everyone else in football is like, I don't think that coach is very good. Held on to Jason Garrett forever. A bizarre dynamic for an owner. And we've known that for a long time, and it's hurt the Cowboys for a long time, but that's been off the field stuff. That's noise. That's drama. This year, specifically hurting them on the field. As we get farther into the year, he's hurting them more and more in more direct ways on the field. Like in this offseason, he waited forever for whatever reason to extend CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott, which apparently he was always going to do. So I don't know why he waited. It cost the team money and it cost cap space to get Derrick Henry or Saquon Barkley or another running back. There were a lot of great running backs on the market. They elected to get none of them. And then he screwed the pooch in the draft by being like, we really like this running back. So the rest of the league knew, and they didn't get to draft that running back. They now have the worst running attack in the entire NFL because of Jerry. And then earlier this year, he's calling out Mike McCarthy. Like, I don't think that we run unique offensive concepts. It's like, Jesus, so you put your head coach on blast in the media, which has trickled down to the players because the players don't mind doing it. Micah Parsons is now doing it. And the funniest thing now is Jerry Jones, for whatever reason, because he's stubborn or demented or a combination of all, just refuses to close the blinds in AT&T Stadium. It's blinding his players. It straight up cost CeeDee Lamb a touchdown on Sunday. He's like, whoa, well, what do you want to worry about the moon too? It's like, are you dumb? Are you stupid? What, you want to build new stadium? No, bro, there's curtains. Close them, you knob. Like, it's just, God, I'm glad I'm not a Cowboys fan. Because they've actually had some nice talent. I think McCarthy's a solid coach. I think Dak when healthy's a solid quarterback. But when you're going to win with just solid, which is what the Cowboys have elected to try to do, you kind of need to be perfect everywhere else, and they're a mess everywhere else. They're a mess on the margins. And then there's the Bears, the Jets, the Cowboys, and the Bears. Oh, my. The Bears were outclassed on Sunday, as I explained yesterday, by the Patriots, who were a team without an offensive line, without a wide receiving core, and a brain trust of a first-time head coach, Gerard Mayo, never even been a coordinator, a first-time defensive coordinator in DeMarcus Covington, and an offensive coach, Alex Van Pelt, who kind of is a punchline, and his career has been 1 year here, 1 year there, 1 year there. He never called plays. That's the team. That's the outfit that completely outclassed the Bears in their building on Sunday. And they fired Shane Waldron earlier today, which is what we're going to talk about, because now this is going to lead into the Packer game. How does this affect the Bears going into the game this weekend, right? It's probably the right move. Someone needed to go. They had just gone 23 consecutive possessions without a touchdown. They're like third last in the league in yards per game, 277. I think I looked up earlier today, which is insane given the talent that they have on offense. Oh, their O-line stinks. Okay. Well, not everything's going to be perfect. Okay, you got Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Rome Odunze you just drafted. Love the tight end room of Komet and Gerald Everett. And what's his face? Old man Mercedes Lewis. DeAndre Swift, Roshan Johnson. Like, just talent. Not talent necessarily be the best offense in the league, but maybe the offense that shouldn't be bottom of the barrel going almost 24 possessions straight without a touchdown. Reasonable? Right. I think someone's got to get fired. I've been reading Shane Waldron takes today. Everyone's got a take. Everyone's got their column. What went wrong in Chicago? Here's what's went wrong. Let me tell you what went wrong, okay? I'm getting a little sick of the NFL groupthink mob on the internet. Right? Every time a coach goes for two. Well, that was stupid. We all agree that was stupid. I mean, it's on Twitter. We all knew that. An idiot. Or a coach decides to kick a field goal. Stupid. We all know. I mean, look around on Twitter. Everyone agree. We all agree. Let's all kiss each other. We're all right. Yep. You didn't go for two. Obviously, should have gone for two. We all see. Look around on Twitter. Everyone's agreeing with me. It sucks. It sucks. It's really annoying. Yeah. You can look at the win probabilities, and there's conventional wisdom about when to go for it and when to kick, but the groupthink mob on the internet just sucks. And listening to everyone rally around the Bears today and basically be like, Waldron was an awful hire. What a bad hire. What a dope. Never would have done that. I would have hired Cliff Kingsbury. Okay, yeah. Because everyone thought so highly of Cliff Kingsbury when he left Arizona. The revisionist history on Cliff Kingsbury is disgusting. It's awful. It's like, well, why wasn't every team banging down the door of Cliff Kingsbury's house to make him a head coach? Because he was a punchline after he left Arizona. No one took him seriously when he left Arizona. Is everyone stupid, or do we just have a memory of like 2 weeks on NFL Twitter? It's obnoxious, right? Shane Waldron obviously didn't turn out to be the right guy, okay? But let me lay it out for you here. This is the career of Shane Waldron. This is the passing game coordinator turned quarterbacks coach under Sean McVay, right? That's basically the highest ranking guy behind offensive coordinator, but the offensive coordinator behind Sean McVay is like a half of an offensive coordinator because Sean McVay calls plays. So Shane Waldron learns under McVay. He learns in that system. He coaches quarterbacks. He becomes the passing game coordinator, which is a nice title. And then he gets a promotion to go to Seattle to go call plays, right? That's what Matt LaFleur did. He was the offensive coordinator in Atlanta, but wasn't able to call play. He was the offensive coordinator somewhere, couldn't call plays. So he makes technically a lateral move to Tennessee to also be an offensive coordinator, but to have an opportunity to call plays, because that's something that most offensive coordinators who want to become head coaches, that's the next step. Got to go call plays. Waldron goes to Seattle and rebirths Geno Smith, right? Oh, he didn't have anything to do. Okay, but he was the offensive coordinator with an offense that, like, everyone's like, wow, where'd this come from? Where'd Geno Smith come from? That's a candidate that makes sense to me. If I was running the Bears, I would have interviewed him. And if he interviewed well, I might have just hired him. And I know the NFL groupthink mob on Twitter would then look back and say, you were stupid. Oh, the guy who coached quarterbacks and became the passing game coordinator under McVay and then went to call plays somewhere and had great success with Geno Smith. That guy's not a serious candidate. This is not a Shane Waldron problem. This is a Bears process problem, okay? The Bears were behind the 8 ball when they started the hiring process for their offensive coordinator. The best offensive coordinators available are interviewing for head coaching jobs. So that thins the pool already. Take a bunch of candidates out of there because they're looking for head coaching jobs. So the Bears have got to look for offensive coordinators who are good, but not too good as to be considered for head coaches. Okay. The Bears also don't like to spend a lot of money, which is something that Packers fans don't have to think about because it's not run by a family. It's not run by a billionaire. It's this weird collective that no one really understands, which is fine. But the Packers, not only, they don't have to hire coaches very often, so we don't have to think about their budget for hiring coaches, but money has never really been a massive concern of ours, right? The Bears don't like to spend money. So now, from the limited group of choices they already have for offensive coordinator, it gets more limited. So they end up with Shane Waldron. That's the problem with keeping Matt Eberflus and being a cheap-ass organization to boot, right? And this new offensive coordinator, Thomas Brown, former Badger, I guess, he'll probably be a shot in the arm. He'll probably tell Caleb Williams to be a bit more aggressive and let it rip, which will probably be good for him. He can't fix the O-line, but I think that change might just get the wide receivers to start trying again, which I think is a very serious problem in Chicago. I think those wide receivers quit on Shane Waldron and I guess by extension, quit on Caleb Williams. And if you're willing to quit on your quarterback, that's not a great sign that if you just get a new offense coordinator, oh, no, now we'll run our routes hard for Caleb Williams. If you respected your quarterback and wanted to play for him, you would play for him regardless of the play caller. But it's just a mess. I just hate the revisionist history of Waldron and King. Why didn't they hire Kingsbury? Because everyone thought he was a joke when he left Arizona. Why am I the only one who remembers things well? I don't have a great memory. Why am I the only one? Your calls. If you want to talk Packers, their place in the rest of the NFL, especially now as the Bears make a change at offensive coordinator just 6 days before the game on Sunday. 608-321-1670. We'll get to your thoughts next on the Wisco Sports Show.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
the Wisco Sports Show. Mike Clemens in about an hour. I want to talk Badgers basketball and, by extension, Badger football. We're just going to talk Badger sports at 5 o'clock. So if you're a Badger caller, you got things to say, you're fired up for one team or the other, just keep the phone ready to go. So I'll take your calls. I'm excited to have some of those conversations at 5 o'clock. I am not defending Shane Waldron. He didn't implement the right offense, or didn't call the right plays, or didn't implement the correct offense in a way where it landed with the players and was accepted by the players. He had to lose his job. You can't go 23 straight drives without, losing your job, without scoring a touchdown, without losing your job. But I get so frustrated by, and I hate to sound like this old man, but the groupthink, the mob on Twitter. Like, I'm watching Twitter during the break, or I'm watching this video on Twitter from Marquis and Karma. Is it Carmi Vitale? She's really good. And I'm sorry, I don't know. It's not Carmine. I've been watching The Sopranos. It's Carmi. And she's on Fox Sports 1. She does some stuff with Andy at Packaday. She's really good. And she was making the point that I've heard so many make about the Bears and Shane Waldron and Caleb Williams. It's like, okay, so your offensive line isn't great. But when your offensive line isn't great, there is ways to get the ball out quickly and to get layups for the quarterback. Yeah, I think Shane Waldron was doing that. Caleb Williams was ignoring a lot of those layups or missing them. Okay, so I hear all the same talking points. I get it, but I watched the whole Bears game, and there were a lot of plays where Caleb Williams didn't have a chance, but there were a lot of plays where he did, and he just ignored an easy read, or he just missed a throw, right? So I don't know. We just love to rally around a dumbass coordinator. We did it last year with Matt Canada. Oh, dumbass Matt Canada. Like, okay, well, it's funny. The Steelers got good quarterback play this year. It looks a little different. Do you know who the offensive coordinator of the Steelers is right now? Of course you don't. No one does. Oh, dumbass Matt Canada. Maybe it was his Kenny Pickett was playing there. You know what I mean? Or whoever it was last year. I don't even remember. 608-321-1670 to your phone calls. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, Grant. It is Thomas in La Crosse.
Hey, Thomas. What's going on?
Hey, Grant. First off, my sympathies to Rob, who will hear this later, but I'm absolutely going to rip on the Bears here.
Go ahead.
I want to play you a quick clip from ESPN Chicago 1000. Matt Eberflus was on their show recently, and this
a clip.
Is what transpired. Football during the course of this year, we got to pull those experiences. Coach? Coach, your cell phone's as bad as the offense right now.
Kaplan. So,
I sent that over to you too, Grant. I sent that over to you too on the talk and text line, so you can check out the rest of it later. But they just rip on Matt Eberflus. And I'm going to be so for real with you, Grant. I expect him to be gone after the Green Bay game. Like, legit, so honest. I asked Rob Dog about this, and oh boy, Rob Dog is going through it right now.
I love how
it's a rough.
Thomas, thank you. I love how you refer to Rob Dog. Some might know who Rob Dog is. Thank you for the call on the clip. Rob Dog comments on Bill's show. You're speaking of Rob Dog like he's a guest on the show. And I love when Rob and Stoddard. I love when he texts and he comments. That clip is funny, by the way, and thank you for playing that, Thomas. I like that clip from Kaplan at ESPN 1000 because I got to hear from the likes of Cowherd all the time. Oh, Chicago, that's a loud media market. They'll get after you in Chicago. I mean, I follow 670 The Score. I don't really get the sense that Chicago is a media market anywhere close to what New York or Boston or Philly is. And yet that's the national perspective. Kaplan is the only one I ever see dishing it out. The rest of the market's kind of snoozy, which, by the way, the Bears post came on 670, which I listened to. I was grocery shopping on Sunday. The clip that went viral from that show, it was a caller blowing up. And all the hosts are like, they're sitting at their laptops like, funny call. It's like, well, someone had to bring the juice because the hosts certainly weren't. I don't know. Overrated media market. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, Grant. Yes, it is. Hey, a Sopranos question. What was the most shocking thing that happened on that series?
The most shocking. Aid, maybe just off the top of the head, probably.
Yes, absolutely. Getting whacked by, yes.
Because I, unlike many, will admit that when Silvio came to pick her up, I did not expect what was coming. That still kind of caught me by surprise. And I think a lot of people go, I knew all along. I didn't know. And it was a jarring scene.
Heartbreaking. Hey, you're talking about poverty franchises, the Bears, number 3 media market in the country. And I thought about the Packers structure. So we got 2.6 million Twitter followers that follow the Packers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's an older fan base. There's probably a lot more. And if the Packers really were short on cash or just needed, let's just say we wanted to get the best for coaching, anything we want, they'll just have a stock sale. You got 1 million people donating $100. That's $100 million right there.
Yeah, it's not hard.
No, so that's the beautiful thing about the Packers structure. You got teams, these old school owners like the Giants and the Steelers and the Raiders. That's all they did. And the Bears, that they don't have that extra type of income coming in, that revenue.
I just here's the thing, Tony. This is why the Packers hate the Bears, is because the Packers in Little Green Bay, small market, not a huge media, they're not even in Milwaukee, look down at Chicago and they think, just pathetic. Like, the Chicago Bears should be driving revenue for this league. They should be the team that's on national TV all the time. They should be the powerhouse in that media market. And the Packers, like, and it's us. You pathetic little brother. Like, it's just, how could there not be animosity in that situation?
It's great. Hey, coaching question before you let me go. Okay, Jimmy Johnson, Bill Parcells were Hall of Fame coaches, run off by Jerry. It just shows you the man is just insane, or his ego is bigger than the state of Texas. But my point, though, I want to make is about the Packers.
Mm-hmm.
You got Marshawn Lloyd coming back. You got this kick-ass running game with Josh Jacobs. You got a good O-line. You got blockers at receiver and tight end. At what point do the Packers become more of a ball-control team and just say, we're going to run and pass 50-50, Jordan Love, and we need more of a Malik Willis type of offense? And do you think that could cause problems with Jordan Love in the organization if they go to that type of style?
No, with Jordan Love?
Yeah, with him getting, he signed this huge contract. He's not trying to be a game manager.
I don't care what he's trying to be. He got his money. Packers took care of him. They paid him. He's like, hey, Jordan, we have a great run game. We got pretty good defense. We're going to run the ball. We're going to run play action, because that's how this offense runs when it's at its best. No, if Jordan Love has a problem with that, well, then this team's got bigger issues, and Jordan Love's got bigger problems. I think it'll probably happen this weekend. I think if Jordan Love got healthier over the bye, and I think to some degree he probably had to, he'll be under center more, long bootlegs, play action, and then passing concepts built off of that, right? Because the last couple of weeks, when this offense gets off the rails, they're always chasing. They're in 2nd and 10. They're in 3rd and long. They're always chasing. They're not ahead of the sticks. They're getting beaten by penalties, which is backing them up, or they're getting frustrated over drops. Especially now, if Marshawn Lloyd's going to come back and he's an option, the way I see it, they have 4 running backs they like. And I think that's too many. But Emmanuel Wilson's been nice. They clearly really like Chris Brooks, and they must on some level like Marshawn Lloyd because they drafted him relatively high. So they're going to be able to run the ball more, mix up the carries and the looks even more. I think we'll probably see it this weekend, Tony, to your point, and we should see it this weekend because it can't be 5 wide slinging the ball everywhere, because Jordan Love and this wide receiving core has shown they drop too many passes and Jordan Love throws too many balls to the other team. 608-321-1670. 2 more quick calls before break. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, Grant, Clemens.
Hey, Clemhead. Sorry we didn't get to you yesterday. It was a jam-packed show.
That's okay. I just, as a certified survivor of a shipwreck, I always enjoy your annual shipwreck show. So that was great.
It is really fun.
I always enjoyed Tony from Texas. I wish she'd come up with another top 10 list. It's been way too long.
Yeah, but, you know what? You're right. But let's not give him any ideas. A top 5 is fine. A top 5 will take up enough time in a phone call.
Yeah, that's true too. So I'm looking forward to Sunday's game. However, I'm not going to get to see it because I got to go to grandniece's play. So
you're busy. You're a full-time grandpa. That's a lot of time. That's a full-time job.
Yeah, it is. But yeah, I think you're so right. You stole some of my thunder. The Bears should be a powerhouse in the NFL with all their potential media coverage, their millions of fans. It's kind of sad what's become of the Bears, but fortunate for us. We can just sit back and watch the shipwreck. The shipwreck. It's the Bears, Jerry Jones, Aaron Rodgers. So much fun for us. It just feeds the sports talk show.
It's great.
It is great for you guys. I'm really happy you guys have idiots like that to talk about. So I know you're in a rush, so I'll let you go.
I'm in a reasonable rush. Thank you, Mike. Yeah, Ebo calls them the longest running sitcom on television. All right, one more call. 608-321-1670. Who's this?
Hey, this is Hot Take Jake. Let me talk to you.
Go ahead.
You said 4 running backs. What about? I think you missed it. There's 5. What about Mr. Dillon?
Well,
Come on, clearly they love that guy.
Sure. Yes. They
I'm
must.
kidding. I mean, but hey, speaking of fascism, this November 24th is official Delete Your Twitter Day. So we're glad to have you on Blue Sky, Grant. It's pretty nice. It's pretty fascist free right now. So I'd love to see all you guys jump over, but not too many of you.
It feels like the exact same app. And I resent the fact that we now have to do things in two different places. That's what bothers me.
Oh, but you don't, Grant. You got to take that jump, buddy.
I do. No, I do though. I do. But what's next?
Well, first, you're talking about the Jets, the Cowboys, the Bears. I'm definitely from like the Bart Winkler school where I know in my heart of hearts, I definitely care more about my rival team suffering than I do my own team, winning.
Okay.
And I'm fine with that. So it's been a great season, no matter what happens with the Packers from that end.
The Jets and the Cowboys specifically, or the Bears, or which rivals are you feeding
all of them,
here?
all of the above.
All right.
And also, I think the Lions, they're a little bit too big for their britches, and I think they're going to get knocked down a peg once it comes playoff time because they have an idiot at head coach.
Interesting. Go ahead.
Well, I just wanted, if you would allow me this volley, it is bye week, so I just had a little quick Bucks topic. Clearly, we all see the disaster that's unfolding in front of us, and maybe none of it matters as long as Doc Rivers is the head coach. But I'm thinking they may have to just hedge their bet and trade Damian Lillard for the best package of young guys and picks that you can, because you're not doing anything this year. And if this continues to be a disaster and you're just mediocre, you don't have your own pick. So what's worked so far with this team has been the young guys infusing energy and getting the most out of those guys. So I think you either just go all in one way or the other, but what they're doing right now, they're headed for an absolute disaster.
Well, okay. So trading Damian Lillard would not be all in one way or the other. That would be 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Look, if they're not doing it this year, then they're not doing it. So if that's what the Bucks decide, fine. And if they want to trade guys away when they realize that, fine. But trading away Dame is a half measure, unless Giannis just wants to hang out here until the end of his career and he doesn't really care if they win, which if that's what he wants, okay, whatever. I can ignore the Bucks just fine if that's what they're going to do. It doesn't bother me at all. I don't want young picks and players right now. I certainly don't want young players. I don't want it. I don't want young players that aren't making a difference on another team to come here and not make a difference. That doesn't interest me. Couple minutes, we'll take a break, come back. Continue with your phone calls, more Packers takes. I'll give you a Bucks thought too when we come back.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Well, let me ask you this. When is Chris Middleton due back?
Chris Middleton is I don't know, Bill. I don't know.
An enigma.
Yeah, we're gonna. I mean, I'll be honest. Look, fans are listening, and I know I'm close to the team. That they're keeping this really tight for the vest. We're gonna lean on Doc a little bit today. It is now mid-Thanksgiving or mid-November, Bill. And I remember being on with you. You asked about this. I said, "There's no way this goes to Thanksgiving." Well, we are closer to Thanksgiving now, right? And
right.
It's just they maintain there's no setbacks, but we haven't seen progression. So what is happening? We'll try our best to get some answers, but it's been a slow road for him, with 2 ankle surgeries, which when you zoom out, it makes some sense, right? Basketball player, 2 ankle surgeries, but I just think the messaging or lack thereof from the team has not helped the situation.
Loved that last comment from Jim Ozarski. Okay, so Chris Middleton's going to miss a lot of time. But the team isn't very good, and fans aren't really having a great time. A little aloof, I think, from the Bucks organization. Can you give us anything? Can you give your fan... Forget the rest of the league. And by the way, the rest of the league doesn't care. No one around the league right now in any of the other 29 teams is like, hey, keep an eye. When's Chris Middleton coming back? Is he close? Oh, no, he's close. The Bucks look like a joke right now. And I'm not saying they're going to be a joke the whole year, but no one around the league is on Chris Middleton watch. So when the Bucks keep this stuff close to the vest, close enough to the vest where Jim Ozarski, who's embedded as anyone, he's one of 2 or 3 people who's around the Bucks every day and gets as much information as made readily available to even the most inner sanctum. No clue. And I was sitting back in the studio as Bill was doing this interview with Jim earlier today. It's hour 3 of the podcast, 12:30. If you want to go find it, it's a really good interview, a lot of good information. When Bill asks, hey, when is Chris Middleton going to be back? I in the studio go, ha ha. And then Jim also did it, which felt right.
Well, let me ask you this. When is Chris Middleton due back?
and that's the thing. Like, I don't think Chris Middleton arrives and saves this team. I don't think they look dramatically different. But if this team is going to turn it around, and I think they have the tools to do it, they might not have the tools to beat the Celtics, but they have the tools to not be 2-8, or whatever they are right now. And by the way, I actually thought they competed pretty well in those 2 games against the Celtics. Okay, those aren't the games that I'm going to get angry about. I wish this Bucks organization wasn't quite so aloof, especially given all the owners are out-of-towners. Then you bring Jimmy Haslam in, who no one likes. The team's not playing well. Tickets still cost an arm and a leg. And I know people are pointing out on social media, well, you can get in for that. Yeah, I understand. But in the big picture, like you're still charging a good amount of money for people to go to these games. The NBA Cup starts tonight. It's a product that you want your fans to watch. Can you give the fans anything on the availability of Chris Middleton? The Sixers already literally got in trouble with the league because they didn't disclose information about Joel Embiid's health to the league. Forget the fans who all thought Joel Embiid and Paul George were probably going to play opening night because why wouldn't they? The Sixers were mute on the subject. Fans paid top dollar for opening night tickets, assuming, well, at least I'll get to see my favorite players. And then they didn't. And then the league came down hard on the Sixers because the Sixers lied to the league. Forget the fans who were left out in the rain paying money for tickets, right? I just don't. It's a turnoff. And that was Jim's final comment. And I believe it starts right here, just to reiterate this and drive it home.
The team has not
one more time.
Basketball player, 2 ankle surgeries, but I just think the messaging or lack thereof from the team has not helped the situation.
I just appreciate that from Jim. Someone thinking about the fans. Jim Ozarski, the Journal Sentinel. 608-321-1670. There's my Bucks thought for the day. They begin the NBA Cup. This in-season tournament is a good idea. I like that the league is doing it. It should be in January. It should not be now. The league shouldn't even be playing right now, but it definitely should. We don't need it right now. There's football going on. We'll need it in January. We don't need it right now. Let's not act like, well, in January, the league's really... No, it's not. No one tries or pays attention in January. Anyways, my entire childhood was watching First Take, wondering, what's wrong with the Heat? They're 500 in January. What's wrong with the Cavs? They're 500. What's wrong is it's January and no one cares. Put the in-season tournament in January. It'd make way more sense. All right, that's my Bucks thought. To the phones. Wisco Sports Show. Hello, who's this?
Big Ron in Jersey.
Hey,
you doing, Grant?
Hey, Big Ron. I'm doing great. Long time no talk. You're right. What's going on?
Hey, you didn't sell your Ethereum, did you? You didn't panic sell it when it's
No, I did not sell. I saw you cocking off about that on Twitter.
Yep, you're back to break even, and it's going to run.
You think so?
It just took because it's all running, with post the election. It's just an election. It's a cryptocurrency friendly elected officials, and that's why Bitcoin is at an all-time high.
Are conservatives, without getting political, are conservatives more pro crypto, or is it just like big picture? Well, Republicans are more.
I don't think you can generalize by party, but
sounds like that's what the markets are doing.
Administration is, and I think in general, yes, they are. There's a Democrat by the name of Elizabeth Warren that's very anti-crypto. And there's a couple others, but so I don't want to get political or make an opinion one way or the other, whether it's good or bad. It's good.
No opinions. I didn't know. Of all of the policies and the platforms, I don't pay much attention to crypto. If I don't understand it, I don't buy it. Big Ron, that's my rule of thumb. Finances in life.
So are they going to have the crazy courts with the NBA Cup this year?
Yeah. Did you see the Bucks picture? I'll try to find it and throw it up on the live stream. It's very blue. It's very blue.
Yeah, you'd almost rather be colorblind watching those courts. But I'm a casual NBA fan. I'm more of an NHL fan. But
I might try to. I might. I listen to a lot of sports talk, and one of the shows that I listen to, they do talk hockey, and it's a lot of language. It's a lot of conversations that I'm unfamiliar with. But I might pick it up. What should my team be?
Oh, the Vegas Golden Knights by far. That's my team.
Okay, I suppose I can meet you there.
Or if you want an East Coast team, you can do New Jersey Devils or the New York Rangers.
Do people hate the Bruins? The show that I listen to a lot, they talk about the Bruins. Do we hate the Bruins?
The Bruins are really, really good, and they've been really, really good in the regular season. But they have not had Stanley Cup success the last couple of years.
The Utah Jazz of the NHL. They won a cup within the last decade, though, haven't they? I thought they did.
They've won more than one. Yeah,
okay.
Within the last 15 years, they've won more than. Boston's been the most successful sports city across all sports.
Oh, yeah.
With the Patriots winning, 6? And the Celtics winning a couple now. Right, and within the last 20 years, and
the Red Sox, but the Red Sox, John Henry's mailing it in. They're not spending any more in Boston. They're not trying, which is kind of why I hope they buy the Celtics, but I don't think they will.
The Red Sox won 3 World Series in the last 20 years. In the last 20, this century, last 20, 4 years or whatever, Boston's been by far, not even close, the most successful sports town in the 4 major sports, for sure. Now, our good friend Badger Bloodies has a betting theory on the NBA Cup, and that's because there's a point differential in these round robin games. Oh, I see the blue cord up on YouTube.
Yeah, with the black seats, in this picture it looks kind of cool. Once you put fans in the stands,
cool.
It might
look like too annoying. It's a little busy though, but
it's
the
very
Badger
busy.
Bloody says take the overs in all the NBA Cup games because teams, even if they're down and they have no chance of winning, they're going to still try because they want to close that point differential. Because that is one of the metrics that will form as a tiebreaker when getting into the knockout round.
That's right. And then there's group stage and then there's knockout. I got to go to a break, Big Ron. We'll talk again soon, I'm sure. And it's always fun. It worked out well. Big Ron was the only caller on hold, so we could, play a little grab ass with talking about crypto and other things. Look, I'm not anti-NBA Cup. There are lots of sports talks who'd be like, it's stupid. I don't know why they're doing it. I know why they're doing it. And it's a little complicated, but apply yourselves, okay? The last time you use your brain doesn't need to be in 9th grade. Like, we as adults, we are capable of applying our brain for a 4-minute stretch, reading something critically, trying to understand something. I'm not going to act like I do it often. I'm not. Let me be clear. I am not the guy who goes home and reads. I'm going to learn about whatever theory. Like, that's not me, but every once in a while, and if we're sports fans, we're capable of applying our brain for 5 minutes. Print something off. Put it on the fridge. Don't be the guy who's like, I don't even understand how it works. Well, the NBA is literally, they put out so much literature on exactly how it works. I'm not anti-NBA Cup. I understand why they did it. I don't think the timing is right. The timing. And okay, that's a nitpick. Better to do it in November than to not do it at all. I just wish they did the NBA Cup in January because we have fewer NFL games. We're starting to wean off of football. Hell, even in February. Do it in February. Now, February, you might be getting a little close to the playoffs, but you still have all of March. So if you really want to do a mid-season tournament, fine. Do it in January. The season just started. Half the league isn't healthy. Half the league wasn't healthy to start the year, and the other half that was healthy is now injured. Like the entire Pelicans team's hurt. Kevin Durant's done. Chet Holmgren's done. I don't know. Do it in January. I don't like to be the guy that complains about everything and says that everything is stupid and everything's dumb. I don't like that brand of sports. The brand of sports, that's stupid, that's dumb. It's just an excuse to not have to watch it or not have to learn about it. I just think the timing is a little off. There's too much going on. There's too much clutter. Right? There's Maction on tonight. I'm going to watch bowling. I'm not, but a lot of people will. People who like football will. People who would otherwise watch maybe some of these NBA Cups in January. Got to get one final break in. We're going to talk Badgers hoops, Badger football coming up at 5 o'clock. Mike Clemens at 5:30.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Wisco Sports Show. Appreciate you being here. Mike Clemens in about a half hour. In just a couple of minutes after we break for Zach's update at 5 o'clock, I want to talk Badgers hoops. Gard speaking with the media today. I have a comment on kind of the direction of the program. Honestly, I don't want to play you. He was asked about maybe a renewed emphasis on offense. And he talked about how college basketball is changing and how the Badgers program needs to change with it. And I heard that and I thought, oh my goodness, what a novel concept. A coach who can mold and adapt his program to fit the changing environment around him. Fascinating. Wonder if there's another coach in the Wisconsin ranks that could maybe put that together. We'll see. So I want to talk Badgers hoops coming up in a couple minutes. Time to get one call in here before the top of the hour. Let's do it. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Grant, how we doing? Would love to call up to 5, but I got to start bartending in a couple minutes. Hey, the parallel on that last segment was insane.
How so?
The storytelling of this show is just awesome. Starting with talking about crypto, talking about a lot of older guys. Oh, if I don't know it, I'm not going to buy it. And then that's exactly how you end the segment talking about the NBA tournament. Oh, if I don't like it, I'm not going to watch it.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, it's not that hard to understand. Go read about it for 3 minutes. Use your brain. I don't just like people who complain to complain.
Exactly. So apply that to crypto. Also apply that to the new Badgers offense. There's a lot of people down on this team, and exactly what you just said. My big pet peeve is when fans complain and gripe, then get exactly what they asked for, nudge, nudge, the football team, and are all of a sudden unhappy with what they got. And so the Badger football team, basketball team, there's a lot of people skeptical, but you got to give Coach Gard credit. He is modernizing the offense, using the transfer portal, doing everything his detractors said he could not and would not, and people are still thumbing their nose and not giving this guy a chance. So I'm hyped for Friday. I'll listen to the commentary after 5, but heading in to go shake some martinis.
Hell yeah. We'll have a good bartending shift. I appreciate it, Vagabond John. I agree with everything you just said. By the way, Isaac Trotter, who was on Friday, talked about, he covers college football from more of a national perspective for 24/7 Sports. He's their national writer. And Nick Osen introduced us. Love this guy. Great follow. He's on Twitter at Isaac__Trotter. I believe there's 2 underscores, but just look it up. You'll find him either way. 1_2_. You should be able to find him. Again, use your brain. Theme of the show. He basically talked about how the Badgers moneyballed the portal. John Tanji, some of these other players that were brought in, they weren't winning players on winning programs. There were some really bad teams, actually, but they said they have some skill sets. They have some traits as players that we like. We're going to pluck them out of their programs that are kind of lost at sea, Colorado or Northern Arkansas. We're going to bring them into Wisconsin. We're going to put them in this program, and the traits, the skills that they possess will add something that we need in the program and the identity of the program. Again, that's a novel concept. A program having an identity is already established, and you're bringing in those guys and their skills to a vehicle that's already moving, right? You're not building it from the ground up. And I thought Isaac spoke really eloquently to that last Friday's show. Looking forward to getting him on at some point soon. I don't know that we need to have a ton of specific college basketball guests that aren't Badger-centric, although he can talk Badgers with the best of them as well. It's really good Nolan Winter takes, Stephen Crowell, John Blackwell, and Kamari McGee, who I see getting a lot of run on Twitter. There's a lot of love for Kamari McGee. I want to talk more Badgers basketball, more Badgers football coming up next. Mike Clemens at 5:30. First, going to get a 2-minute update from Ebo, I believe, or Zach. I remember Zach was off earlier today. A great update, no matter who it's from. We'll be back in 2 minutes.
It's been you, woman, right down the line.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, the Milwaukee Bucks currently sit 8-2 on the year, good for 14th in the Eastern Conference, and will host the Raptors tonight. Tonight's matchup at the Pfizer Forum against Toronto also will signify the start of the NBA's in-season tournament. It is group play, but the Bucks will have to do it without Damian Lillard. He is in concussion protocol. Tip-off tonight is at 7 o'clock. Turning to Wisconsin, the Badgers are 3-0 on the season. That's after taking down Appalachian State on Sunday. Now, the Badgers' level of competition will turn up as they welcome in number 9 Arizona on Friday to the Kohl Center. They also will be honoring Bo Ryan and the back-to-back Final Four teams.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Farmers deal with a lot, including long days, stress, and this is your reminder to take breaks, stretch, have a snack, and hydrate your body. Avoid farm accidents by keeping yourself healthy. Visit ruralmutual.com to learn how Rural Mutual supports Wisconsin farmers and prioritize safety on the farm.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Well, the Packers are off their bye week and preparing for the Chicago Bears. Wide receiver Jaden Reed was asked how he is feeling entering the second half of the season.
I feel really good right now. I felt pretty good last game too, but before that I was pretty beat up. So, that's why we had a bye week. And, hopefully everybody's feeling much better so we can go out there and fly around and play the best ball we can play.
Edge rusher Aaron Mosby was also asked what was the message from the coaches going into their break.
Just stay focused, stay locked in. It's a bye week, but it's not an off season. You still got a rest of the second half. So really, just try to get your body healthy, find things that you can improve on going forward. We 6-3, we're in a good spot, but we got to keep climbing and we got to win that NFC North. So really just stay focused, stay locked in, take a time off, and then just go forward from there.
It'll be Packers at Soldier Field against the Bears Sunday, kickoff at noon. For the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network, I'm Ebo.
This is an organizational catastrophe with a capital C. All right. The city of Chicago, the Bears, they have that big C on their helmet. Yeah. They should change it to catastrophe. The degree to which they have mishandled this situation is now embarrassing. You make apps. You decide Shane Waldron is the guy. When the season ends last year, we have the most important thing we are going to do in the foreseeable future is develop this quarterback. They chose, to your point, Dan, they gave Caleb Williams their playbook in February, right, at the Combine.
Yes.
There was never a question who they were going to take.
All in.
They've known since well before the draft itself, who their quarterback was going to be. The overwhelming priority of this franchise, of this organization, of this business was to develop this young man who clearly has gifts that almost no other quarterback we've ever seen has. It was to develop him.
The offseason, everyone's like, oh, Matt Eberflus, he sounds kind of smart because he's got a new haircut and he's dressing fresher. And I was like, we're looking for answers. Find answers.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
I like all the reaction from Bears people. And I don't rip on the Bears because it brings me any joy as a Packers fan. I haven't gotten joy in the Bears failing in a long time. I'd be more shocked to see the Bears succeed at this point. Like, I like watching the Vikings fail because the Vikings are, I think, a really well-run organization. They haven't won championships. Packers only have one championship in this century, right? A lot of teams have no championships. So I think the Vikings are a very good operation. They're willing to spend money. They got good facilities. I think they hire good coaches. I think they're a smart organization. I cheer against the Vikings because I think there's a chance that the Vikings might actually win. They might actually beat us, and they have. The Bears, I experienced no schadenfreude from the Bears. I just play those clips, and I listen to the analysis because so many people, and Bears people, I don't get it. I don't get it. Bears people every year. I saw Matt Spiegel 2 or 3 weeks ago on 670 was like, the Bears are going to sweep the Packers this year. It's like, why do you guys keep putting your head in this trap? You just come back year after year. It's like insert head between two logs. And you do it to yourself. You do it to yourself. And that's extended to Cubs takes a little bit, like Parkin saying, oh, old takes exposed. Hold me accountable. The Cubs will win more games with Craig Counsell this year. Okay. No, that didn't happen. Didn't end up working out. I don't get the audacity of Bears fans. And I guess it's a tribute to the spirit of American sports fans to never give up and to never lose faith in your team, even though you absolutely should. Bears fans, you absolutely should. It's the Wisco Sports Show. Mike Clemens, about a half hour away. I want to talk Badgers for a little bit because I hear so much talk about NIL, transfer portal. These new factors, these newer now, they've been around a couple of years, but these new dynamics in college sports. I went to Woodman's during my lunch break today to pick up a couple of things. And my God, by the way, people at Woodman's at 3 p.m, you behave like animals. People honking at each other in the parking lot. Just a despicable show of humanity, by the way, at the Woodman's on the west side of Madison. That's neither here nor there. Just what is going on with you people? You have time to go to Woodman's at 3 p.m. on a work day, but you don't have time to sit in the parking lot for an extra 2 seconds. You got to honk at people. Whatever. I was listening to Sports Talk Radio. I was flipping the dial, different Madison stations. And I hear people talking about, well, the NIL, the transfer portal. I heard one host refer to the NIL transfer portal as if it's one thing. It's not one. Those are two different things. NIL, name, image, likeness, and the transfer portal. Those are two different things. Every once in a while, they coincide. It's like sometimes you need big money from your NIL collective to play or to pay for a player in the transfer portal. So occasionally they intersect. But I looked it up today just to make sure I had the figure correct. There were 3,843 players in the NCAA transfer portal for football in May. The idea that all of those guys are getting cut a fat check, you are insane if you believe that. Now, there are players in the transfer portal who make a lot of money, and that's when the NIL come into play. But the NIL transfer portal, two different things. Two different things. And for the most part, I would please like to talk about them differently. The transfer portal, back to the basics, because I think some people need it, is new. Players are allowed to transfer more often, but the transfer portal is an extension of a coaching dynamic that's existed in college sports for a long time, right? You need to identify the kids that are good fits for your program and convince them to come play for you. Now, the new rules around transfers in the transfer portal has forced coaches to do that more often and with more frequency. You need to convince your kids to stay year after year, and you need to go out in the offseason and convince players from other programs to come play for you. Yes, more frequency, sure, but it's not a novel idea. The idea, well, you need to sell kids on your program. Well, college coaches have been doing that since the beginning of college programs. It's a different application, a more intense application for sure, but it's not a novel concept. NIL, that's different. That's money. Right? The school, the athletic department, boosters filling up a war chest of funds to pay players, high school recruits or big-time recruits to come through the portal, right? Like I said, there are instances where the portal and the NIL, where that comes together. Rare instances. Again, almost 4,000 transfers in the portal this last May. They're not all getting a fat check. But sometimes, right? Now, some schools have more money. Most of the heavy hitters have all that money because of corporate boosters and sponsors. Like Arkansas and Oregon don't have unlimited NIL funds because they're selling like Duck IPA. Like, no, that's because Phil Knight is backing them. Or in the case of Texas or Arkansas, you have massive corporations or oil baron alumni or Tyson Foods, that whole thing. Corporate overlords, sponsors, right? That's where most of the big time NIL money comes from. And I've heard a lot of fans, I heard it talk about on sports radio earlier today. Well, how can we judge Luke Fickell? How can we accurately decide the job that he's doing if Wisconsin doesn't have the NIL money that some of these other programs have? How can we judge? How can we evaluate Luke Fickell? I would like to put on this show an embargo in place on discussions surrounding Wisconsin's NIL fund. I don't think they deserve it. Which, by the way, they have more money than lots of programs. They have money to spend. I think they have spent it poorly. I think they spent it very poorly. I don't think Luke Fickell and his staff knows what to do with the money. I'm not sure that Luke Fickell hired the correct defensive coordinator to run the correct scheme. And I'm not convinced that he hired the right offensive coordinator to run the correct offensive scheme. That's not a money issue. That's a football acumen issue. That's a scheme issue. That's a coaching issue. It's not well, we didn't have money for the players. Well, if you had the players, would the scheme be able to stop the run in Iowa City? Would the offensive scheme, put up more than 14 points a game? Would the offensive scheme, A, attract a better quarterback than Braden Locke, or B, be better with Braden Locke under center? A or B, I'd take either one. Either one is better than the alternative, which is Braden Locke, who sucks playing in an offense that also sucks, right? We have neither A nor B right now. I'll take one or the other, a better quarterback or a better scheme around the same quarterback. Fine. I don't think this is a football program. I don't want to talk about the money. I don't think they haven't deserved our demand. They have not earned us banging the drum to funnel more money, to raise more money, to spend more money on this program. Iowa, that's a program that can stand to gain with more money. They know what's going on. They have a clue. They have an identity. They've built something. They have a foundation. No, they don't have the war chest. I don't know how they compare NIL money to Wisconsin, but they're not, the biggest of heavy hitters. But if Iowa had a ton of money, I'd be interested to see what they could do with it. Wisconsin, you just futz it away on this and that. Oh, we're going to bring in Nick Evers. We're going to bring in this player. We're going to bring in that player who's going to transfer next year because he's not as good as he thinks he is, not as good as we thought he was. We're never going to use him correctly anyways, and the team's not going to win. Great. Excellent. That's a program that we want to funnel NIL money to? Not a chance. The basketball program. Now, they could stand to gain from NIL money, for more funds, for more backing. Greg Gard, he's got a clue. He's got an identity. Wisconsin, by the way, this is a new state of college basketball. They're going to lose 2 or 3 players a year in the transfer portal because they don't like their role, which I have mixed feelings about in this current state. I have mixed feelings about a player like Miller Moss, who's been terrible for USC this year. Oh, you're benching me? I quit. Well, dude, you suck. What do you mean you quit? I'm not doing my job if I don't bench you. You're going to walk out on the program and your teammates? Okay, whatever. So that, I do have a problem with that. But a player like Gus Bus, who was more intent on smoking pot in his college dorm room and getting underages, which is by the way, it's pretty hard to get an underage at a massive school. Everyone's drinking. How did you stand out? How did you put yourself in that spot? And sometimes you get really unlucky, but you don't get really unlucky more than once. You're smoking pot in your dorm room, you dunce. Oh, I'm going to transfer. Okay, go smoke pot in someone else's dorm then. You obviously weren't that interested in playing college basketball. It wasn't for you, at least not at Wisconsin. So Wisconsin's always going to lose transfers. They're going to lose transfers to players that they don't have the role that they thought, or players who just fizzle out like Gus Bus, or Chucky Hepburn, or AJ Storr. Bigger programs come looking with more money, and they want those guys, which I actually think is a compliment to the program and the job that Wisconsin is doing. To have other programs trying to steal your guys, that means you have good guys, right? Greg Gard is going to have to replace those guys, and over the last 2 years, he's shown that, right? Getting John Tonji and others this offseason, kind of rounded out that roster, all the while developing guys like John Blackwell, having a guy like Steven Crowell who's here, who I don't really love. I kind of hope Nolan Winter continues to get better and develop, but that's a different conversation. We're going to see how those two hold their water against Arizona, who's a massive team with lots of size underneath, right? Greg Gard has shown, to me at least, that he understands how to build this program, how to operate this program. Here he is today, by the way. Now, this is a long cut, but Greg Gard was asked about the players that he went after this offseason, the way that he's built this roster, and if they're making a more active attempt to center around offense. It's a 3-minute answer. It's very good college basketball. I might cut it early if I feel like we've gotten the point, but this is Greg Gard from earlier today asking, hey, have you started to target players that are a little bit more offensive schemed rather than defense?
You're naive if you think good offense doesn't result from good players, right? But you also have to have a system in place. and the players in place to execute the system and thrive in the system. And it's all been intentional. I think probably this year even more than last year, just because of how we recruited specifically perimeter shooting fours and scoring wings and Tanjay. So, scoring is up in college basketball. We've heard that coming for many years. But if you look across the country, just give you a small snapshot from last Monday night, the opening night. I had our people upstairs do all the research of every Division I game, and the average winning score was 89.4. Now there was some lopsided, 113 and some 65 to whatever, but by and large, you look across college basketball, you have to score, and it doesn't take the importance of defense away. You still have to defend, but understand players are more skilled. They're more diverse in what they can do. The game is being officiated to increase scoring in terms of less charges, more blocks, more free throws. I think schematically, programs have adjusted and have added some of the things that we've added to their game plan to try to increase scoring. And Arizona is a good example of that. I think Tommy's, he's always been on the cutting edge of that. He was that when he was at Gonzaga with Mark. And they're one of the first ones to utilize some of the European ball screen motion stuff that we put into place. And, that it goes back to David Blatt that Kirk played for.
All right, I think we get the point. I want to get some calls in, right? But talking about the changing dynamics of college basketball, how he's changing the program along with it, being fluid and not being rigid in what they're doing. I kind of understand what Gard's trying to do. That's a program that has a direction. Football, and you can invest as much money as you want into either program. If they don't have a strong identity in what they're trying to build, well, then you're just going to throw money at players, and I don't really know that it's going to result in anything. 608-321-1670. Let's take some calls. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Eric on I-90.
Eric, good evening. How are you?
I'm great. Our charges westbound on I-90
Excellent.
on a Tuesday night.
Excellent.
Hey, great show yesterday, Grant.
Wasn't it nice? It is nice to talk about the shipwreck. I have some post-Edmund Fitzgerald depression today, but that's fine.
Me and you were kind of having that Edmund Fitzgerald dueling contest, texting stuff back and forth.
Yeah, you sent it a couple quick links. I was looking at pictures of the Arthur M. Anderson. I want to go to one of the locks and see that thing. God, what a legendary ship. Just beautiful.
Well, it's almost like you can see, the Edmund Fitzgerald because it's the exact same boat, right? The exact same boat.
I think they're about the same length, too. I'll Google it. Fine. Twist my arm.
Anyways, I'll stick with the program, okay?
Sure.
It's these college programs, and I think you're right about the Badgers, and it's just a sense I'm getting because I'm not following close enough. But you know me, I'm a fan of a fan, so I am picking up things as I go here. In that you've got to have a very, very, very strong program, and it's got to show, it's got to be stable, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because all of these teams every year are going to have rotating players through an NIL money. But if what they come into is steady and on firm ground, that program will excel. And I think that you're convinced, right, that Luke Fickell has probably not done the job yet.
Well, I
don't know if he should get any more time.
I reject, he's going to get more time. I just reject the idea that we can't evaluate him yet. You know what I mean? Like, I have eyes. The games are on TV. I'm watching the product. Okay, I don't expect them to have the talent of Oregon and Penn State and Ohio State, but Eric, our eyes know what good football looks like. Our eyes know what good coaching looks like. That's not it. I don't think they're a well-coached team. I think it's absolutely fair to evaluate the job that these coaches have done through a year and a half. I think it's very fair.
Let's put it this way. Given everybody having the same money, let's just say everybody's got the same amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
The Ohio States and the Oregons are still going to win because their programs are better, and the people leading them are better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Fair statement.
Yeah, and that's because they carry a little bit of prestige too, some historical value. Eric, I appreciate the call. I just think those teams and a team like Iowa has an identity, and they're going to lose some frustrating games, and they're going to drive their fans crazy. But Badgers drove us crazy over the years too, right? There'd be games where it's like, man, you ran it how many times in a row against Nebraska, right? But this team is just aimless right now. They're just adrift, and money is not the problem. And I don't think time is the problem either. That Iowa loss might be the worst loss of the Luke Fickell era to date. And it was what? How many games have they played so far? I don't know. We're a season and a half, more than a season and a half in. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, it's Darnell Pachon.
Hey, Darnell. What's going on?
Hey, are we still talking Badger basketball?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. So you were kind of talking about identity and how Iowa football has an identity, and Badger football used to have an identity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Badger basketball had one of the most specific Bulldog identities for damn near 20 years with Bo Ryan, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then all that program needed to kind of take that next step was a couple of NBA players, right? A couple of players that fit into the identity in the system, but elevated the system.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's what Greg Gard's trying to do here is he's trying to create an identity for the Badgers. And then, that one Johnny Davis player that takes him over the top, that one Sam Decker player, that one Frank Kaminsky, that kind of push him.
Nolan Winter?
Nolan Winter. I mean, we say that as a joke.
I don't. I don't say that with there's not a single ounce of humor in my voice saying that. Really? I mean, maybe a little, but.
Okay, but going off of that right there, Nolan Winter, he's a sophomore. Guess who else was a sophomore and wasn't all that impressive but was showing signs? Frank Kaminsky. I'm just saying, these people can come out of nowhere, and development is so huge in college, especially for people that are sticking around for more than 2 years, So who knows?
And that's why I kind of feel great about. I don't feel like Nolan Winter's about to be poached, but then again, if he goes out and has an absolute banging season this year, I didn't think Chucky Hepburn was going to get poached until he did, and I'm like, okay, yeah, if I was a program with big money, I probably would have tried to do the same.
I also think that it can come down to how your season ends, right?
Sure.
In 2012, if I remember correctly, the Badgers went down in the Sweet 16, but it felt like they could have done better than that. They come around the next year and they go all the way to the Final Four, right? And then the next year they're runners up. So I think if you feel like your program is building, that's one thing. If you feel like your program is maybe in a little bit of a decline, that's another thing. Maybe I don't want to be around here. And I think that it's possible. Hepburn and what's his name? Storr. I can't remember his name from last year. Yeah, I think that they had that loss in the first round last year. They're like, yep, time to jump. So
I guess
I do think that has something to do with it, how your season ends versus just the overall direction of the program.
So
I do like what Greg Gard's doing. I got to say that.
Yeah,
I like what he's doing.
And I do too. And I think the end of the season matters. I just got to get to a break, Darnell. The end of the season matters. I don't know that it was going to keep AJ Storr around, but this program, for a million other reasons, needs a tournament run. If for nothing else, just to get to the second weekend. They need it in the worst way. I don't know that it would have kept AJ Storr here, but for a lot of other reasons, and we can discuss those reasons next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
It's the Wisco Sports Show. Mike Clemens, in less than 10 minutes, going to join us, start to get ready for Packers-Bears. The Bears fired Shane Waldron earlier today, which was not surprising. I was kind of hoping they'd give him one more week because now I'm worried about the Bears getting a bump with a new offensive coordinator. I don't think that their new offensive coordinator, Thomas Brown, can fix the offensive line. I don't think he can wave a magic wand and completely and totally fix the way that Caleb Williams has been playing. I think he can add a little juice. I think he can fix the vibes, and the vibes are important. And I also think he can get the wide receivers to start trying again. And I don't know that you can watch the film of the Bears the last couple of weeks and say, man, I don't know what's going on. Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, and Roma Odunze, they are running those routes hard, snapping them off crisp. They're really playing their best. I don't think they have been. And I think of the Packers when they went to Los Angeles to play the Chargers in 2019. Remember what happened? The Chargers had just fired Ken Wisenhunt and promoted Shane Steichen. And the Chargers look like a brand new offense. And I think this Bears team has more talent than that Chargers team did. I don't even remember. Keenan Allen, I think he was on that Chargers team. Funny enough, right? I think the Packers are better. I think Caleb Williams has been playing a bad brand of football. What I won't stand for, and here, I'm going to play you a clip, and I apologize to those of you on the live stream because the audio is not going to come through great. But for those of you listening on the radio side, our radio audience, this is Carmen Vitale, Carmi V on Twitter, on Marquee. And I'm not picking on her because I hear everyone say this, and I just disagree with part of it. I'm going to play you the part that you need to hear for me to make my point. How about Caleb Williams? So the tight end and running back in the protection scheme, I can't speak to that. But I've watched a lot of the Bears the last couple of weeks, and I think Shane Waldron was doing some of those things. Like he was giving them quick hitters, outs, little drop-offs to the running back in the flat. Caleb Williams was ignoring them as he ignored DeAndre Swift in a clip that was going all over the place after Sunday's game, or on the out routes, just missing them. Caleb Williams has a high percentage of missed throws. I think it was like 19% of his throws were off target in a clean pocket. Like he's just not playing well. So again, I always get, well, sure, the offensive line is great, but you could scheme it up. I actually think Shane Waldron, to a degree, had. And Caleb Williams wasn't hitting the throws or was choosing not to make the throws. And you can't go 23 straight drives without scoring a touchdown. So Shane Waldron, I'm not saying he didn't deserve to get fired. I'm just saying I don't think Shane Waldron was the total poo-poo, bonehead that maybe he's being made out to be. Well, just give him quick outs and dump-offs. They did. I saw him a lot. Caleb Williams was missing him or ignoring him and then taking the sack. His time to throw is actually a lot quicker than most people would think. Now, I think that average time to throw is stark because there's plays where he'd hold the ball forever and get sacked, and then there's plays where he'd get the ball out instantly, so the average sits somewhere in the middle. But there are plenty of plays where the ball's coming out quickly, and he had options. He missed the throws or ignored them completely. Let's take a break. We'll get to Mike Clemens. He'll join us to talk Packers next about their next opponent, the Bears, and what he's heard so far as the Packers return from their bye this week. More of the Wisco Sports Show next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
It's the Wisco Sports Show. Appreciate you being here. Fun to talk Badgers hoops. Fun to talk Packers throughout the show. A couple programming notes, some guests that you might want to pay attention to. Maybe, maybe not. Bo Ryan's going to be on with Bill on Thursday at noon in, I guess, preparation for the Arizona game and all of the pomp and circumstance of Friday night at the Kohl Center. So look forward to that. Also, a guest that I'm very excited about tomorrow will join us to talk Packers. Steve Mariucci, NFL Network's going to be on. And while Bill will be the one conducting the interview, I'd personally just love to ask him about the UP because he played quarterback at Northern. That's where my sister went to school. He's a man who's probably very familiar with the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald and other UP Lake Superior type fairs. So Steve Mariucci tomorrow at 11:30. Looking forward to that, guys. A loaded week and probably only going to get more loaded as the week goes along and we get ready for Packers Bears. Mike Clemens will certainly play a role in the rest of the shows as we get ready for Packers Bears this week. Mike, welcome. What's going on?
Hi, Grant. Did you ever see the movie America's Underdog, the Kurt Warner story?
That's pretty new. That's the last couple of years, right?
It's actually very good. It's very good. And even though I knew most of the story as it happened and everything, there's a scene in there where Kurt is, I think he'd been playing for the Iowa Barnstormers, an Arena League team, didn't get looks, and then he's on the field of the Green Bay Packers with Brett Favre, and I don't know if Detmer was out there, a couple of other guys, but it was like he'd only been there a day or two, and then they said, "All right, Warner, you get in there," and he kind of said, "Coach, I don't want to embarrass myself. I don't want to waste anybody's time here. I don't know what you're doing yet.
Yeah.
I don't get it." And they're like, "Are you kidding?" And the next morning, he gets called into Steve Mariucci's office because he was an assistant, maybe the quarterback's coach. And he said, "You're gone. We're releasing you. You don't not get under center when we call your name
right
at practice." And that was it. And the guy playing Mariucci seemed to be kind of a cold, clueless. I don't think you need to bring that up to Mooch. I'm sure he's fully aware of this.
I thought you were unfairly represented in the Kurt Warner film a couple of years ago, Steve. He's on hold. He's waiting to go on with Bill. I saw that movie, Mooch, and I don't know. I thought they did you dirty. He'd be like,
the
"Yeah,
reason
thanks."
that Brett Favre wanted Steve Mariucci to replace Ray Rhodes is because the Steve Mariucci you see on TV is exactly the guy that you saw on the sidelines in Green Bay, that you talk to in person, that you interview and all that. He's very consistent that way, very honest, very knowledgeable, and he makes it fun.
Yeah.
He definitely makes it fun, no question.
Well, and he's no stranger to the dynamics of the NFC North. And when he was in Green Bay in the 90s, the Packers were owning the Bears. Not much has changed since then. They fired Shane Waldron earlier today. So we could talk about that, Mike. What I first thought of is I thought, oh, this reminds me of 2019. If you remember when the Packers were rolling and they were going out to California to play the Chargers, and we thought they had it in the bag. And that was the week where the Chargers fired Ken Wisenhunt and inserted Shane Steichen, who that completely jump-started or I guess propelled his career. Now he's the head coach with the Colts. Sometimes these coaching changes can be a swift kick in the pants for a team. And I think that changes the dynamic of Packers Bears at least a little on Sunday, right?
I remember that. I remember that game and how shocked, the Packers were by it.
It was a bad
game. At the
game.
same time, I forgot about that offensive coordinator shift. I remember Wisenhunt when he was a pretty good stern head coach that took the Cardinals to the Super Bowl with one Kurt Warner and lost to the Steelers. It happens every once in a while. Usually it's the next step to the head coach getting fired.
Yes.
But I remember one year where John Harbaugh in Baltimore had enough with his offense. He felt really good about his defense. And about this time of year, he switched to an offensive coordinator, Jimmy Caldwell, former Colts head coach from Beloit Memorial High, from my high school. And they went to the Super Bowl and beat the 49ers and won.
Yeah.
So, and that's just because he got Joe Flacco to loosen up and to see the field a little bit better. So Shane Waldron is a guy who's 45. He's come up through the ranks. His last stop was as a part of Sean McVay's staff. But I'll tell you, Matt Eberflus, the head coach of the Bears, is just getting barbecued today. And I had just heard this story a month ago. And it's actually before the Bears began this free fall with the lack of offense they've had. Haven't scored a touchdown in the last 23 quarters.
Yeah.
Cliff Kingsbury had been sitting, on the beach after head coach of the Cardinals, and that huge contract he was getting paid for from Arizona. And the Bears flew out to L.A. in the private jet and meet him at Marina Del Rey and talked to him for 3 or 4 hours and never called him back. And Kingsbury knew that the Bears were going to have, were on their way to probably having a top pick, and he would have loved the job. But they didn't call him back.
Yeah.
In the meantime, Dan Quinn gets the job with the Commanders, calls him, and I think he just kind of felt like, if these guys aren't going to call, then I'll go to the team with the number 2 pick. Well, he's now running the number 4 offense in the NFL right now with Jaden Daniels.
Here's what I don't get. Because Shane Waldron obviously didn't do a good job. Like you said, 23 drives without a touchdown. You're not going to keep your job. Okay, the Bears would look inept. But Shane Waldron came up through McVay, was a quarterback's coach, passing game coordinator, then goes to Seattle to call plays and is excellent with Geno Smith. It was a great team, great success. Yep. Cliff Kingsbury, I think we're revising history a little bit. I don't know that most were really high on him after his time in Arizona. Kind of fizzled out. They go to their individual state. My point is, do you think it's Shane Waldron or the Bears? Do you think it's Cliff Kingsbury or Jaden Daniels and the Commanders? I'm just wondering how much of this is the individual Shane Waldron and how much it is just the rest of everything else from top to bottom, the McCaskies all the way down to the last guy in the roster in Chicago.
What Mike Holmgren would say? You don't hire an offensive guy when you don't have the quarterback settled, when you got a young quarterback.
Okay.
You have an offensive guy, and it's the Bears. Why did they bring in Eberflus, even though he had a hot defense there with the Indianapolis Colts? You need the defense on offense. You need a play caller, and part of this is so they fire Shane Waldron after just 10 weeks and a 4-5 record and 3 games where you haven't scored. You've lost the last 3 in a row. You fire him after a game where the Patriots seemed to know your offense better than you knew yourself. It was just amazing. I mean, Caleb Williams had nobody to throw to every damn play, whether he was looking at the tight end, the wide receivers, a back coming out of it. Everything was picked up by the Patriots, whether in man, whether in zone. It was amazing. Then you've got Daryl Johnson, the former Cowboys fullback, as the analyst of the game, saying, play that back. And he shows Cole Kmet, this very talented tight end, coming off and then stopping and, running in place and shaking his hands, but no head fake, no juke, just cutting to the left on a down and out on a 3rd down. And the defenders more than able to deflect the ball. They've got a punting. And it's just like, why don't you at least throw a head fake? Why don't you at least show Shimon? So now you've got Daryl Johnson up in the announcer's booth criticizing your technique. And he was 100% right. He was in one replay. Anybody could have seen. Why aren't you telling this guy? You're not doing this. You have to do it this way in order to sell that route. Particularly when you're the number 1 in the choices that Caleb's got for this 3rd down play. So that's just horrible coaching and stuff that's missed. And at the end of the day, it's got to be the head coach that's got to be asking this question of his offensive coordinator. So Thomas Brown gets promoted. Thomas is 38. He went to Tucker High School in the Atlanta area. We played against them when I was a kid playing high school football there. And he lives the dream. A running back who gets picked up by Georgia, plays for the Bulldogs, gets a 6th-round pick from Atlanta, got hurt his first year, then got cut. He's basically was a practice squad guy for a couple of years in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
And but he got hired as a assistant, a running backs coach, a tight end coach. And now here's a guy who's working his way up the chain. He was part of that group that was with McVay as well. And they bring him. Now, he was with the Carolina Panthers working for Frank Reich. And the Panthers, 1-10 when Frank Reich, the head coach.
He took over for Reich as play caller last year when Reich got canned, right?
Yeah.
So this is the second time in 2 years he's come in relief duty, basically.
Yeah, and that was the one where, like around December, people were saying, well, maybe this is the new head coach, and his wife tweeted out, we're just placeholders, okay?
Hey, easy, everybody, easy. Take it easy.
Everybody knows that we're all gone here, okay?
Yeah.
And she's like, got crying emojis on there. Someone like to hire my husband. So he gets hired as, an assistant, a passing game coordinator by the Chicago Bears. And now he gets, a great shot as an offensive coordinator, 38 years old, trying to help this mess with the Chicago Bears. And it's still an awful lot of talent in Caleb Williams and what they've got as receivers. I think DJ Moore, though, did he leave that game with a concussion? So he might be under the protocol this week. I know he got hurt somewhere in the game.
So I didn't see that. I just haven't been blown away with the effort and the intensity of the Chicago Bears and the routes that they're running and the work they're doing. I think they were checked out and out to lunch on Shane Waldron, which is one thing, but then by extension, you're checking out on your quarterback. And I think if these wide receivers had more respect and admiration for Caleb, which I'm led to believe that they don't, because giving up on your OC is one thing, but then in turn, you're giving up on your quarterback and hanging him out to dry. I think a new offensive coordinator might re-engage those wide receivers. And I would imagine the new offensive coordinator, his first message to Caleb Williams is, all right, man, relax. Like, you can't get any worse. Just relax and sling the ball. Do what you do. And I actually think that'll probably work. I think that messaging will probably work.
Well, like the New York Jets and Nathaniel Hackett, they're thinking, well, if we change the play caller, maybe that will help. And so Thomas Brown has been there since day one of this year through camp and with Caleb. And so, they'll use the same playbook. As Caleb Williams said after the game on Sunday, look, we're not going to reinvent the wheel here. They'll use the same playbook, but it's what plays you call. It's what adjustments we make. It's what maybe a dozen new plays you throw in because you see something on the Jeff Hafley defense this week going into the game. So, there's that chance for them to get a spark and to turn things around. On the other side, Thomas Brown, your new interim offensive coordinator and play caller, is stuck with a crappy offensive line.
Yeah.
With 4 guys that are banged up, 4 preferred guys you'd like to have that are injured. And that's part of their problem as well. And even though, and people get after the young quarterback in Williams for holding onto the ball too long and maybe scrambling too much. He scrambles a lot. He's got, great legs. The fact is there was plenty of times where I thought that he was in the timing of the play and he looked, and again, he had nobody to throw to because everyone was so covered.
Yeah. And then the instances where he's had good reads and open guys, he's passed him up or he's missed him. It's just nothing's working, which of course is why the offensive coordinator's been fired. Mike Clemens is here. So elsewhere around, I think in week 10, I was watching Commanders Steelers with great interest. And I was also watching the Jets game with great interest. Number one, because I like watching Kyler Murray. He's playing well. He's really fun to watch. But also it seems that the Jets are cooked. And we say that every week, Mike, which is kind of wild. It's like every week we watch the Jets, we're like, oh no, they're actually even more cooked than we previously thought.
What was that? Was it 35-9 or something like that?
36-6, something.
Yeah.
It's just something completely out of reach. I mean, they didn't get a stop. The Jets defense didn't get a stop until the end of the game. The Cardinals ended the game with the ball, and the possession before that, they punted. Otherwise, it was all touchdowns and field goals.
And the week before, it was the Jets on, Thursday Night Football. So they had a break going into this game in Arizona as well.
And they were coming off a win against the Texans.
Aaron Rodgers had 32 yards passing in the first half, like lowest of his career. And, he was throwing to air. He was throwing air balls. There was no one in the space. So a little yelling at each other at halftime. Devontae Adams saying a couple of words. And they got lucky. I mean, Garrett that made a couple of one-handed catches in the game and for touchdowns. And
Garrett Wilson.
Garrett Wilson and Devontae making a spectacular catch, and suddenly they get up, by 3 touchdowns and they win that game over the Texans. Texans, by the way, they've given up, 2 or 3 games here in the last quarter. They have not been lasting 4 quarters as of late. But whatever. The Jets at home, and then they go to Arizona and they look this flat. And then afterwards, I listened to Aaron's press conference. It was 5.5 minutes. He never spoke that short in all those years in Green Bay, and he's out of answers. He knows it's all on him, and he has run out of answers. That's a mess. So, but I'll tell you one thing about it that Aaron was right about. It was 3 years ago in October. We were down at Soldier Field, and he scores on a run and gives the belt. And then there's a bunch of Bears fans there in the south end of Soldier Field in the kind of the bleacher seats, and they're all flipping him the bird, including there's one lady there that gave him the double bird. And he said, I own you. I own you. And you know what? He was right, because I was just looking at the stats out for, today. So the Packers have won 10 straight games against the Bears. That's the longest winning streak by either team in this 100-year series. The last time was a 10-game streak under Favre from 94 to 98. The 2 10-game streaks there by the Packers are the longest any team has against the Bears as a franchise. The 10-game streak is also the longest current streak by an NFL team against a single opponent. It's mind-blowing. And as Aaron was joking earlier, this month, don't ask me about the Bears because Jordan Love owns them now.
Yeah.
After he was able to continue the streak. So I'll tell you what, Matt LaFleur, Jeff Hafley, you better not lose this one, because this will be a record breaker. Now this will be 11 in a row. That goes down in the record books, and you cannot lose to this dumpster fire in Chicago right now. I don't care how motivating Thomas Brown is. This is not one you want to lose.
So lastly, don't you think the Packers are going to be fired up coming out of the bye? This is where I am mentally with this team. They just put together an awful performance against the Lions, divisional opponent at home. I think that was sticking in their craw, and it should be. And I listened to some of their commentary in the locker room after the game. Drops, mistakes, dumb things that they know they can be better at. Maybe they wouldn't have beat the Lions anyways, but they certainly didn't put together a good performance. They stew on that for 2 weeks, and now they have a crack at another divisional opponent, one that they're used to beating. I think we see the most motivated Packers team of the season. I don't know what that team looks like. I don't know what that performance looks like, but I can't imagine a world in which this team isn't jacked up and ready to go Sunday.
I hope so. And you got enough guys that are back for a second year, that have been in Soldier Field and have got a feel for it. And in terms of what players you're going to get back on the field this week, that'll be interesting. And, the one thing that everyone is looking for is the speedy running back, Marshawn Lloyd, who injured his ankle week 2. And, even Goody kind of tipped off last week that when after trading Preston Smith, hey, you got an open roster spot. And he all but said, I don't have to really decide that until the Saturday before the game, which he does, 3:00. If you're ever interested in the latest of the Packers, check my Twitter account about 3:05 on Saturday afternoons before games, because that means Goody's come up with his final moves up from the practice squad. I would have hoped that they wouldn't come out flat after having a week off and after what happened against the Lions and the opportunity they have to win this divisional game, because it's not like the Vikings game, at the end of December is going to be any easier, or the trip to Ford Field and then the Dolphins, who found new life last night on Monday Night Football. That's your opponent on Thanksgiving. So yeah, you better buckle up, put your chin strap on, and be ready down there and play some Packers Bears football and take advantage of this opportunity to this struggling offense and this probably fatigued defense down there in Chicago, coming off that embarrassment to New England, and make it 11 straight in a row. I don't see what it would be holding back the Packers in terms of injury or anything else that's going on. It's one more week too that maybe Jordan Love and his leg injuries feel a little bit better. And I wouldn't be surprised to be reporting to you about this time Thursday at 5:30 that Matt LaFleur had him out there an extra 20 minutes and in a vigorous helmet and pads practice if the weather's okay, to really work these guys and say, you need to start thinking about playing football again and hitting people.
Well, I look forward to it. They're favored by 6.5. So your point is, you can't let opportunities like this go by. No games in the NFL are freebies, even against the Bears when you've won 10 in a row. And they're just not in a position in their division of their conference to completely slough off and lose games because they show up sloppy or they show up not ready to go. Mike, appreciate you. We'll talk to you tomorrow night on Bill's Huddle.
Thank you, Grant.
Awesome.
Talk to you then.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Appreciate the time. Let's wrap up the Wisco Sports Show next. 3 minutes.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
It's the Wisco Sports Show. Appreciate Mike Clemens. Thank you for some great interaction today. I love talking Badgers hoops. Excited for the Arizona game on Friday night. Wish I could go. I just have some things going on. But Bo Ryan will be on Bill's show later this week. We're efforting to get Gard. And when I say we, it's my job, technically, as the producer, to try to get Greg Gard. But we'll certainly continue Badgers basketball coverage this week. Huge game on Friday night and a really big test against a team with some size. And Gard talked about that today, too. Like, Arizona is big on the boards. That's a big team. It's going to be a heck of a test for Steven Crowell, which is nothing new. But Nolan Winter, year 2, let's see what you got. I don't think he's ever going to be Kofi Coburn, but can you be big enough to hang in there and hold your water and make those bigger, slower centers pay on the other end of the floor? I think that's what we're looking at Nolan Winter for. That's what I'm looking for, at least. We'll continue to talk Badger basketball and anything that happens, any developments with Packers Bears throughout the week as well. Podcast will go up in just a couple minutes. Thank you for listening. Talk to you tomorrow at 4.
You said,